5 aminos to add to your healthiest breakfast ever, hypernutrition juices. My amino cocktail has 53 medicinal health-giving benefits, and there may even be more. Watch the video carefully to see safe doses. Beta Alanine does not appear on the board, but is discussed as part of an amino combination for prostate health. Add to the Healthiest Ever Breakfast Ever Mark 1 vegetable juice with 28 medicinal health-giving effects for a total of 81. Add to the Healthiest Breakfast Ever Mark 2 vegetable juice with 63 medicinal health-giving effects for a total of 116. So how many health benefits do you get from cornflakes? See also Healthiest Breakfast Ever Mark 1, Part 1, the studies, intro. I walk you through the studies, yeah. Healthiest Breakfast Ever Mark 1, Part 2, where I show you how to make the juice. And Healthiest Breakfast Ever Mark 2, Part 1, the studies, intro, where I walk you through the studies on a board. Healthiest Breakfast Ever Mark 2, Part 2, making the juice, where I show you how to make the juice. Notes: do not use the Healthiest Breakfast Ever 1 if you get a lot of sun or tanning bed exposure, because carrots contain phototoxic molecules called furanocoumarins in moderate amounts. Carrots in your normal diet are fine, but we are using 500 or 600 grams of carrots, which means there is a large amount in the juice. B, the HB Healthiest Breakfast Ever 2 contains large amounts of oxalate in the beetroot and the spinach. There is a theoretical risk of kidney stone formation if you have certain health conditions, which are given in the opening minutes of the studies. So welcome back to Urgent Health Message, and today we're going to talk about aminos. Amino acids, and part of my Healthiest Breakfast Ever, this is the third part 3 of a series on my Healthiest Breakfast Ever. So you've got part 1, which is the introduction, and part 2, which shows you how to make the juice, and we're going to look at the individual components of the juice. So one of the components of the juice is glutamine in my canonical version. And so I started to look into glutamine, and I found lots of interesting things. I started to look at aminos in general. Anyway, if you've just stumbled onto this video without seeing my other videos, have a look at my playlist. It's mainly about the Seignelay diet. Dr. Jean Seignelay, pronounce it like this if you haven't got any French. So Jean Seignelay. A Frenchman would recognize that. He'd just think you have a terrible accent. So he was a professor of medicine, and over a period of 20 years with a special diet, he put with about 2,500 patients, he put about 2,300 of them into remission with his diet, okay? His theory was that modern foods, i.e. foods that came in the Neolithic, 10,000 years ago in the Middle East, 5,000 years ago in Europe, namely wheat. We started to make bread, we started to cook, we started to cook meat, and we started to get milk from cows. And he thinks all these, what are in genetic terms, these are novel foods. Yeah, we have not evolved to cope with these foods, and they damage the gut, and they actually damage the junctions between the gut cells, between the intestinal cells, which are called enterocytes. What happens is macromolecules, gut cells, the enterocytes, have very specialized ways of capturing the food, okay, very sophisticated. But when the cells are, the junctions between the cells are damaged, macromolecules can just go through those junctions and into the bloodstream, and they end up in our tissues and in the cells of our tissues, of our organs, and that's what causes the diseases, according to your genetic predisposition and what you like to eat. That influences what disease you're going to get. So he proved really that this was the case, because most of his patients went into remission on his diet. So it must be the case. What got me interested in glutamine was that Dr. Seignelay said that you on the diet, according to your disease, you might get very quick results. The results might not be quite so quick. You might need to follow the diet for a year before you see any results. You might follow the diet for a year, not see any results, and then suddenly overnight you're going into remission. But he said if you don't get any results, after a long time, a last-ditch strategy would be to supplement with glutamine, okay? So I started to look into glutamine, and glutamine is fantastic for gut health, okay? It heals, all the damage that Seignelay is talking about, it heals it. It heals the junctions between the cells, and it helps the cells proliferate. The villi in your intestines, you've got these protuberances, like finger-like protuberances, called villi, and I'll flash up a B-roll of an endoscope view of the intestine, and you'll see these villi, like anemones, waving around, and they look shiny. The reason they look shiny is because they're covered in mucus. There are cells which line the villus, so you've got the villus like that, and then you've got cells which go all the way around it. And most of them are just enterocytes, but you've got some specialized cells as well. You've got Paneth cells, you've got cells which generate mucus. If we take off the mucus, we'll see that the enterocytes have what's called a brush border. So they have more of these undulations. So the surface area of the gut is about the size of a football pitch. It's enormous. Glutamine heals the gut. So, if you have surgery, if any part of your digestive system is operated on for some reason or other, they'll give you glutamine to probably initially as an IV, or, well, there are two kinds of administering it. It's called, there's enteral nutrition, which is when they put a tube through your nose down into your stomach, or parenteral, which is an infusion, intravenous infusion. So they will, they probably give you that initially, and then probably supplement with glutamine, just in some water and drink it down, whatever. Anyway, so glutamine, fantastic for healing the gut. So that's why I put it in my Healthiest Breakfast Ever. So, and by the way, I'm not saying you should use the Healthiest Breakfast Ever as treatment for all these diseases that cellulite treated, because that won't happen. It might just help, yeah. But you need to follow the diet to get remission, and so all this, we know about most of this stuff because we owe a big debt to people with inflammatory bowel disease, which is Crohn's or colitis, ordinary colitis, or microscopic colitis, or ulcerative colitis. Because when people with those diseases have an acute attack, they have to go into hospital, and they're fed by enteral nutrition or parenteral nutrition, and they're fed with aminos. So they do a mixture of all the aminos which you need until the digestive tract heals enough for them to be able to eat food normally again, and then they're discharged from hospital. So that's where all the research comes from. And I don't know who first realised that glutamine was so good for the gut. I didn't discover that, but if I looked hard enough, I'd probably find the origins for that. But anyway, in 1957, a chap called Fay, in the 50s, they realised that for some reason some of these patients were having a very adverse reaction to the enteral or parenteral nutrition. And they thought that, they did experiments to find out why on dogs, yeah. So this chap called Fay in 1957, he did some research, and the paper is, he worked for the National Institutes of Health, among other things, in the US. And his paper is called Toxicity in Blood Ammonia Rise Resulting from Intravenous Amino Acid Administration in Man, the Protective Effect of L-arginine. Okay, so what he discovered was if you administer all these amino acids in the enteral or parenteral nutrition, and it doesn't contain arginine, you can have a dangerous rise of ammonia in the blood. Hyperammonia something. And it can even lead to death. So he discovered that you need arginine to prevent this. So this dangerous situation. So why does arginine work? And let's have a look at some of the aminos. Now, all of these aminos, there are other aminos apart from glutamine, which are very good for the gut. And I recommend, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, a paper called Therapeutic Potential of Amino Acids in Inflammatory Bowel Diseases. And this was another National Institutes of Health study. People work, probably PhDs, working for the National Institutes of Health. And they did experiments on rats and pigs. And quite cruel, really. They induced colitis and Crohn's disease by giving the poor old rats and pigs chemicals to artificially induce the symptoms of colitis. One of the things they used was acetic acid, otherwise known as vinegar, and they used other nasty chemicals to induce colitis. And then they gave them various aminos to see if it would heal the colitis. And these, the main aminos which healed the colitis were these: glutamine, arginine, glycine, taurine. There are others which were beneficial. So it's not just glutamine. Glutamine is the main one. Glutamine is the so-called preferred food of enterocytes, but these do a very good job as well: arginine, glycine, and taurine. So I started to look at these aminos. As you can see, I'm a very thorough guy. When I do something, I do it very thoroughly. And yeah, so arginine, and all this research, of course, is on PubMed, which is a database where every single medical article published in English since about 1900 is on the database. Just Google whatever you want to look up and you'll find it on PubMed. So why does arginine prevent this problem of high ammonia in the blood? Yeah, it's a precursor for the synthesis of urea, nitric acid, which is nitric oxide, polyamines, proline, glutamate, creatine, and agmatine. Those are, it's precursor for all those things, but it has, it's mainly a precursor for the synthesis of urea. And ammonia in the body, you know, to get rid of it safely, it's transformed into urea, and that is excreted in the liver and kidneys. And let me read you, that's the short version. Let me read you the long version. Okay, so I've got two things I'll quickly read, and this is the usual Latinate stuff. So first of all, we've got one, these are two very good explanations of the urea cycle. And it's a cycle, it goes round and round, yeah? So the first one, Cornell University College of Veterinary Medicine textbook. And this, so the urea cycle is good for all mammals, even rats, yeah, and it's pretty much the same in all of them. Let me read it. Ammonia metabolism for all animals. It says, ammonia is produced primarily from breakdown of amino acids in various cells of the body. Endogenous ammonia. The ammonia is taken up by hepatocytes. Hepatocytes are liver cells. So anything with cytes on the end of it is a cell. Anything with "ene" on the end of it is a protein. Anything with "ase" on the end of it, is an enzyme. Yeah, yeah. Slight senior moment there. Right. So yeah, the ammonia is taken up by hepatocytes, so liver cells, and converted in the urea cycle to urea, which is then exported into blood. Urea is primarily excreted in the kidneys, 75%, and the intestine, around 25%. Once in the intestinal system, urea is broken down by bacteria. So once in the intestinal system, urea is broken down by bacteria in the colon, forming ammonia, which is then absorbed into the portal circulation, The liver efficiently extracts 85% of the ammonia from portal blood. Portal blood is blood which goes from your intestinal cells, behind the intestinal cells, to the liver. Yeah, that's portal blood. Leaving only 15% to enter the systemic circulation. Bacterial metabolism of other proteins also produces ammonia from exogenous sources. Defects in hepatic function, portal blood flow, and urea cycle enzymes or intermediates can result in hyperammonemia. That was the word I was looking for earlier. Hyperammonemia, as can excess production of ammonia in the gastrointestinal tract. Okay, that's one explanation. So it's a system. It goes round and round, and the ammonia is extracted, and then it's put back and it's extracted. So here's another really good explanation. The pharmabiotic approach to treat hyperammonemia. And this is a paragraph in that paper, which is, if you want to look it up, it's 2018, Liu et al. Yeah. So ammonia in the human body is produced mostly as a byproduct of protein digestion and bacterial metabolism in the gut. Yeah, we've seen that already. The kidney and muscle also generate a significant amount of ammonia. Within the kidney, ammonia is produced from glutamine in the proximal tubule, don't know what that is concentrated in the medullary interstitium, don't know what that is either, and is then released into the blood circulation system or excreted into the urine, facilitating the secretion of protons. When the glucose levels are decreased by starvation or intense exercise, the skeletal muscle can also generate ammonia through amino acid catabolism. So that's what happens when you do a fast, you've got therapeutic fasting, which you can probably cure all the diseases, cellulite cured as well, by a month-long fast. But then you'd have to go on the diet afterwards to maintain it. But anyway, and what happened, you lose muscle mass, and that's what happens to it. It's broken down into ammonia. The majority of ammonia is either reutilized for the biosynthesis of nitrogenous compounds, such as amino acids. So, so the ammonia is circulating, it's being taken out, put back, reused for other things, or converted to urea by the urea cycle, and only a small amount of the remainder ammonia is released into the blood. Because free ammonia is very toxic, especially to neurons, ammonia is rapidly converted to non-toxic urea by the urea cycle in the liver and excreted in the urine eventually. Thereby, blood ammonia can be maintained at its safe concentration levels in healthy adults. In the case of inherited urea cycle disorders or liver diseases, blood ammonia levels increase and eventually cause subsequent diseases such as neurological disorders, hepatic encephalopathies, Rey syndrome, and some toxic encephalopathies. So there you go. So so glutamine can give you all of these aminos except for arginine and except for taurine. Taurine doesn't produce any ammonia. Taurine is just excess taurine is just excreted as taurine. I think, let me have a look here. Excreted as 70% as taurine. It's excreted in the urine. 70% as taurine, 25% as sulfate. So that's taurine. We don't want to overdose on taurine, of course, but anyway. Glycine and glutamine and other amino acids, which I haven't got on the board, can lead to a rise in ammonia, which could be dangerous if you have liver and kidney disease, urea cycle disorders. 1 in 35,000 people have urea cycle disorders, so it's not that common. Yeah, it's pretty uncommon. But I wouldn't want somebody to, see my video on how to make the juice and start taking glutamine. And, who knows, I might get more than 35,000 viewers, and more than 35,000 might try it. So, but I think if you've got a urea cycle disorder, you know about it. Yeah, it will have been, you will have been told that you've got it. Yeah, so it will have been diagnosed. So, or Ray syndrome, which is, a urea cycle disorder. And if you've got Ray syndrome, you would know about it as well. So, if you've got these things, don't supplement with glutamine, okay? You might be able to supplement with arginine, but ask your doctor, yeah, if it's safe to do that. And you might want to supplement with taurine. But yeah, taurine I think would be safe, yeah, with those sort of disorders. But ask your doctor if you want to supplement with these things before doing it, if you've got any of these things. Now, one interesting thing about glutamine is that it's a precursor for arginine, okay? So it's not as bad as it looks, because some of the glutamine is being broken down to, it's actually the way it's transformed into arginine. There's a precursor called citrulline. So there's an intermediate stage. So the glutamine is transformed into citrulline and then into arginine. So you're getting this, even if you take glutamine, you're getting this effect. You're not getting it necessarily with glycine, because I don't think glycine does that. So, if you're taking glycine, if you substitute glycine for the glutamine, you would want to be taking some arginine with it, yeah? Don't take pure glycine, just take some arginine with it for this effect to get rid of the, excess ammonia. So yes, so there's an intermediate stage. Glutamine is transformed to citrulline. Now, interestingly, this is interesting here if you're a bodybuilder or if you're into anti-aging strategies. Two things here with arginine. Arginine promotes human growth hormone. It promotes, as we get older, we produce less and less human growth hormone, and that's why we get diminished muscle mass, and you end up skinny like me. And I'm 68, by the way. So so arginine, good strategy for anti-aging. Take some arginine. We'll get on to safe doses in a minute. Yeah, so I'll tell you what the safe dose is. And take some glutamine to get the citrulline, or take citrulline, take pure citrulline. It's very expensive. After doing all this research, I've done this research over the past 3 or 4 days, spent about 20 hours on PubMed. I've skimmed about, hundreds of PubMed articles to get all this information. So the information is not, you've got to do a lot of hard work to find it all. Anyway, citrulline, arginine in the muscles builds up muscles, but you don't get much from supplementing with arginine. But citrulline in the muscles is transformed into arginine in the muscles. So not much point in supplementing with arginine to build muscles, apart from the human growth hormone factor, which will also build muscle. Another thing to build human growth, to promote human growth hormone, you want to exercise, and what promotes it is oxygen debt. When you do anaerobic exercise, and when you're out of breath, you get oxygen debt. That generates human growth hormone. So that's another thing to do for anti-aging and to build up your muscles a bit. Do some weight training, which I need to do, by the way. Citrulline. I ordered citrulline yesterday. It's bloody expensive. Okay, the pure form. There are two kinds. There's L-citrulline and there's citrulline malate, I think. And apparently the L-citrulline is the good stuff. So that's what I ordered. Cost me 50 quid for a kilo. So I'll be incorporating that into my Healthiest Breakfast Ever juice, and we'll see what the results are. Yeah, I'll maybe do a video in in a few months' time, and we'll see what it's done for me. So there we go. So let's look at any possible adverse effects from these things. We talked about hyperammonia, raised ammonia. So we've seen it in glutamine. Now arginine is pretty safe. Arginine, pretty safe at high doses. High doses, well tolerated. All this stuff I can back up, by the way, with studies, with papers, yeah? And we'll maybe flash up the papers and the relevant section in this video. That'll be a lot of work, but I really want to make this a really good video. So yeah, if you take very high doses, so a normal dose of arginine would be, the maximum safe dose would be about 1.5 tablespoonfuls, 20 grams of arginine. So, I mean, if you're taking 40 or 50 grams, that's a very high dose. You might get nausea and diarrhea, yeah. So then you know you've taken too much. But why would you take too much, no point in being stupid. Disposes of ammonia, yeah, we've seen that in blood because it's precursor for urea cycle intermediates. The liver and kidneys convert ammonia into urea. Arginine is synthesized via citrulline from glutamine. We've seen that. Yeah, we've seen all that. So let's look at glycine. Any adverse effects with glycine? Well, glycine, in glutamine, the waste end products are ammonia and glutamate. And glutamate is quite a useful thing in the body, quite useful for a lot of things. But it's also what they call excitatory molecule for the neurons. So that's what happens when you get so-called Chinese restaurant syndrome, where you've had too much, monosodium glutamate, yeah. And taking arginine, that's what they do, give people, that's what people with the Chinese restaurant syndrome, they give them arginine, yeah, to get rid of the glutamate. So, yeah, it can, potentially not too good for the neurons if you've got too much of it, yeah. So that's a reason to exercise caution, I think, with this supplementation. And by the way, all these things, we need to be careful because we can throw amino, the balance of amino, throw aminos out of balance. Yeah, so we need to be careful with this stuff. So it's pretty safe, I think, what I'm advocating here. But we'll go into how to do it safely at the end. Yeah. So glycine, waste products are ammonia and CO2. So CO2 not a problem. We can get, you just breathe it out. Yeah. And ammonia, of course. Yeah. Associated with some inborn errors of metabolism. So if your body can't synthesize glycine properly, there's a thing called maple syrup urine disease, and what that is why it's called that, maple syrup urine disease, is your urine smells like maple syrup. That's an indicator that you've got this inborn error of metabolism with glycine. So I don't know whether supplementing, it's a very nasty thing. It's usually fatal. Yeah. So I don't know about it. If you want to look into that and see what the treatment for it is, look that up on PubMed. I certainly wouldn't want to get into that. So taurine, no ammonia produced. Yeah, we've seen that. So let's see how the various aminos are, where they come from. Yeah, how, whether, so glutamine was thought to be essential. No, it was thought to be non-essential because it's in plenty of foods, plenty of various kinds of foods. It can be synthesized in the body as well, in the muscles. 90% can be synthesized from the muscles, and the lungs and the brain can also release some. So it was thought to be non-essential, but it's now believed to be conditionally essential, because if you have stress, either emotional stress, or you have an accident, or you're severely ill, your glutamine stores are depleted, and that's when you get, of course, when you start to get leaky gut, when you start to have these problems. And Senile said that he found that most of his patients, the onset of their disease happened after stress. Very often, it was stress that started the disease. So, and of course, it's like a vicious cycle. If you're stressed, and your glutamine stores are depleted, and then you start to have then you have leaky gut. Well, and then you start to have a disease that's going to cause more stress, yeah, and that's going to deplete glutamine even more. So, vicious cycle. Arginine also conditionally essential. It's a component of all protein-containing foods, and it can be synthesized from glutamine. Again, that in severe diseases, it can be, you can use up all your arginine as well. Glycine, non-essential because it's present in many foods, in seeds, nuts, meats, cereals, shellfish, beans, lentils, leeks. It's present in all those foods. So, and it can be synthesized from the serine amino. Don't know much about that. I didn't research it. I've only researched into these aminos. Yeah, there's loads of amino acids. I haven't researched them all, but anyway, from the serine amino. Now, taurine is essential, and this is interesting because it's very hard to get. It's in very few foods. It's in meat and fish. And there are only minimal amounts in cow's milk, large amounts in shellfish, yeah? So if you eat oysters and stuff like that, you're getting large amounts of it. Cooking has no effect on taurine, you know, the levels of taurine in the food. But if you're a vegan, of course, you're not getting any, yeah? And can it be synthesized? Well, it can be synthesized in the body from cysteine when vitamin B6 is present. But cysteine is synthesized from methionine, yeah? And methionine is in eggs, meat, fish, sesame seeds, Brazil nuts, and some other plant seeds. So if you haven't got enough B6 and you haven't got enough cysteine, you're not going to be able to synthesize taurine. And look, if you're a vegan, you'd only get methionine in Brazil nuts and sesame seeds and some other plant seeds. So how many vegans are eating that all the time? So yeah. And the other thing about taurine is it's a factor in depression. There's a type of depression where taurine levels are depleted, yeah? It's not so, you know, supplementing with taurine, it's not going to put all cases of depression into remission. But it is going to put into remission certain, you know, the types that are types of remission that are not affected by antidepressive drugs. So if you're taking drugs for depression and it's not working, it's pretty sure that you've got the type of depression which is affected by taurine. And try supplementing with taurine. It might be like turning on a switch, yeah? So I think I can say that. I don't have to be equivocal about that, yeah? I don't think you're going to do... Oh, well, of course, you mustn't take huge doses of it. This is the safe dose, 3/4 of a teaspoonful, yeah, of taurine. So... So there we go. So, and we've looked at all that, yeah. So precursors for, let's see what the precursors are for. Glutamine is a precursor for nitrogen and a carbon donor for the synthesis of arginine, and citrulline, we've seen that. Citrulline is the immediate step. Arginine, precursor for the synthesis of urea, we've seen that, yeah. So, very important precursor for urea. And glycine, precursor for choline, serine, hydroxyproline, threonine, through inter-organ metabolism. Mainly the liver and kidneys are involved. So, yeah, quite a few aminos are, you know, glycine precursor for these aminos. So we've looked at that. So now let's look at the therapeutic benefits, and this is when it gets really interesting, because these things have got some great therapeutic benefits. So as we've seen, if you've got severe illness, or you've had an accident or something, you definitely need a supplementary glutamine. And they've done studies of, in hospitals to see the effect of glutamine supplementation. Yeah, one of these therapeutic benefits, by the way, if you've got sickle cell disease, usually people with, it's African Americans or Africans or Jamaicans, can have sickle cell disease very prevalent in those populations. It reduces the severe complications of sickle cell disease, and it's FDA approved for that application. Yeah, so I can say that, you know, without fear. In critically ill, it should be given in intensive care to prevent death. Yeah, so not kidding around here. Yeah, let's have a look. Mortality. Yeah, reduction. So supplementation of glutamine, reduction in mortality between 10% and 30% in critically ill patients. So if your relative is in hospital after a car accident, you know, all smashed up, make sure they're getting some glutamine, yeah? And, you know, if they die and they haven't been given glutamine, contact your lawyer, yeah? And look up the paper on PubMed, yeah? Show the lawyer the paper on PubMed. But make sure your relatives, you know, your severely ill relatives, make sure, ask if, you know, if they're being supplementing with glutamine. So it reduces inflammation, improves metabolic function in injury, and improves nitrogen balance. So it also reduces infection between 7% and 58%. So yeah, if you're in hospital and you want to avoid an MRSA bug, make sure you're getting glutamine. Arginine, the same thing, yeah, reduces infection. It's crucial for liver cell proliferation. Very important, glutamine, very important for liver cells. So let's have a look at arginine. Again, you want to make sure that they get your relatives in hospital, or you yourself, you know, if you've had a bad accident, you want to make sure that there's, you know, they're giving you an IV with arginine as well. Yeah, supplementation reduces the rate of hospital-acquired infection by 40%. Okay, so in these days of the MRSA superbug, which is, you know, which you get in hospital, yeah, arginine to avoid it. So it's a precursor for the synthesis of urea, we've seen that. Speeds up wound healing. It's an immune system stimulator, produces T cells. Reduces blood pressure in hypertensive patients. So if you've got high blood pressure, it reduces, it does that because it produces nitric oxide, yeah, which improves the blood vessel lining function. So, yeah, it's a precursor for nitric oxide. Yeah, here we go, precursor for nitric oxide. Glycine, again, fantastic therapeutic benefits. So it's a substrate of bile, as is taurine. Taurine also a substrate of bile. So very important for our healthiest breakfast ever, because we're stimulating bile with the black radish, yeah? So we want, you know, our bile, we want plenty of bile. We want bile in good shape, you know. No good stimulating it if it's not there, yeah? So, yeah, very important for our healthiest breakfast ever. And, oh yeah, and this is really interesting. If you've got osteoarthritis, listen carefully. There was a study, I think, you know, this is PhDs messing about again, you know, for the National Institutes of Health, I think. And what they did, they got bovine chondrocytes. Now, chondrocytes are the cells which make cartilage, yeah? And they put the chondrocytes in a Petri dish and fed them glycine. They also fed them proline and lysine, I think, yeah, lysine as well, yeah. The lysine and the proline had an effect. You know, it got the chondrocytes produced collagen, but it was a temporary effect. But glycine the chondrocytes produced loads of collagen, and they went on producing it after the glycine was stopped. So I haven't got that study to hand, but if you Google chondrocytes, glycine supplementation, osteoarthritis, PubMed, you'll get the study, yeah? And we'll flash it up. I'll get my editor to flash up the study, yeah? So, so if you've got now this is interesting because Seignelay had, and this is all about the Seignelay diet and my interpretation of it. And Seignelay said that he had great results with osteoarthritis, and we'll flash those up now, yeah? You'll see those appearing on the screen now. So, although he can stop the progression of osteoarthritis with the diet, he said it cannot regenerate the cartilage, okay? And he said that's a reason to adopt the diet as soon as you get the symptoms of osteoarthritis. Yeah, so if you've been diagnosed with osteoarthritis, crucial to start the Seignelay diet straight away to avoid its progression. Now, he said nothing, he didn't know, I don't think he knew about any way of regenerating cartilage, but this sounds interesting, yeah? So it's just a study in a petri dish. Yeah. I don't think anybody's done any studies, even studies on rats or stuff like that. But you might want to consider supplementing with glycine. You could also supplement with collagen. You can get collagen as a supplement as well. Yeah. So you might want to try that if you've got osteoarthritis, see if it regenerates the cartilage. Making no promises here, it's just a theory. Yeah? It can treat. You can use it. It can be used to treat enlarged prostate. It's glycine with two other aminos. Let me see if I've got it written down here. Let me consult my notes. Yeah, lysine and proline. Lysine and proline and glycine. And I don't know what proportions or what the dose is. And I did a bit of research and I couldn't find that. But if you've got an enlarged prostate, which I have because I'm 68, yeah. So if I don't take saw palmetto, I get up 4 times in the night to pee. If I take saw palmetto, it's only once in the night. And maybe not even at all. So saw palmetto I take, but this is an alternative to saw palmetto. Now there's a Japanese company which makes the supplement precisely for this use, for enlarged prostate, and it's called I think it's called Prostate, something like Prostate. There's a very if you want to learn more about this, there's a very good page. I found a page from the Townsend newsletter. Yes, so Townsend is a proper MD, proper medical doctor in the States, but he's into alternative stuff and all the cutting edge stuff. So he sends out a newsletter. You can subscribe to the newsletter. And the latest natural treatments are in there. Yeah, so very interesting. Okay, so treats schizophrenia. Glycine treats schizophrenia. Now I looked at the studies, and there was so much jargon I couldn't make much sense of it. They were giving glycine with. They were giving glycine with drugs, yeah? So it's hard to know if, of course, schizophrenic, it's not going to be all that rational, I can't really say look at the studies and maybe, try some just glycine supplementation on your own because, So anyway, it looks like glycine is very good for schizophrenia. Good for stroke. Now, again, they're giving 2 grams per day for stroke, after you've had the stroke. And very good results. But 2 grams? Oh, come on. I mean, I'm talking here the safe dose, 15 grams a day. What's that about, You've got to think that, there's influence of big pharma in everything, Doctors are terrified of some treatment, natural treatment that's going to work, But anyway, enough about that. Stroke, and some of the rare metabolic disorders, I'm not sure what they are. Not sure if they're effective for Ray's syndrome or urea cycle disorders, not sure. Obesity, treats obesity. Prevents cancer, diabetes, are very good for diabetes, found studies, very good results with diabetes. Diabetes 2, of course, not diabetes 1, diabetes 2. Very good for, if you have, enhances quality of sleep. If you've got, if you're having problems sleeping at night, if you have sleep problems, glycine, definitely. Look up the studies. So, do Google sleep disorders, glycine, blah, blah, and you'll see the studies. Enhances neurological function. Now, I must be careful here because I looked up, I thought, ooh, does it treat Parkinson's or Alzheimer's? And the answer is no, it doesn't. In fact, it could make it worse because in Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, glycine levels are elevated, It's a very complicated thing. There's lots of, look up the papers. There's nothing really clear-cut. But it looks as if 5-HTP could be useful. 5-HTP is a precursor for melatonin and serotonin. Melatonin is what you make at night to sleep, and it's stimulated by the absence of light. So, when it gets dark, you start to make melatonin. In the daytime, melatonin is converted into serotonin, which makes you feel alert and chirpy, and then again at night, the serotonin is converted into melatonin. It's a cycle. Very important to have lots of light during the day and complete darkness when you sleep. That's another thing which should affect your sleep, Make sure, sleep with a sleep blind if your curtains are letting in light. I'm digressing a bit here. It improves the function of liver. Now I'll come back to that when I talk about dosage, dosage and how to take these things. Because I think that's quite important, well, anyway, I mustn't get off track. Let's finish this. Glyphosate, otherwise known as Roundup, this horrible thing that Monsanto insists that, regulatory authorities say, you can use Roundup. Yeah, European Commission just authorised its use for a further 5 years. The European Parliament voted to not authorise it for the next 5 years, and that was their recommendation to the Commission. So the EU, it's just it's just a way for all the horrible corporations to get what they want. Yeah, the European Commission is full of has-been politicians. They're just puppets for the corporations. Monsanto and all big pharma, Coca-Cola and tutti quanti, yeah. So that's my rant, yeah. Yeah, and glyphosate affects glycine metabolism. So supplementing with glycine might be a good thing, to overcome the nasty effects of this herbicide on all our foods. Another reason to eat organic, strictly organic if you can. You can't get everything, it's hard to eat 100% organic, but try. Glyphosate impairs glycine homeostasis, I've written. Glycine improves cell function in many cell types. So that's good news, yeah, improves function of cells. We've pretty well had a look at taurine earlier. Treats depression, hypertension, very good for hypertension. And a lot of these things do, glutamine, arginine, taurine, all good for hypertension. Hypothyroidism, good for hypothyroidism, yeah? And again, if you're a vegan, you've got hypothyroid, look no further. Gout, very good for gout. And for institutionalized patients probably not getting a good diet, yeah? Good for infertility, if you're trying to have a baby and you're not succeeding. Try some taurine supplementation. Good for obesity. Good for kidney failure. So it's good for kidneys. Right, so one thing, what did I want to... Yeah, so let's get on to dosage and how to take these things. So we've got glutamine. Some problems with glutamine. And glycine as well, because they produce ammonia. And, are we getting hyperammonemia by taking large doses of these every day? And it also, an end product of glutamine is glutamate, which is very useful, fulfills lots of functions in the body, but it's also an excitatory molecule for neurotransmitters, yeah? So I think I talked about that earlier. So Chinese restaurant syndrome. So yeah, that's two things. Also, we talked about how glutamine is the preferred food of intestinal cells. It's the preferred food of your intestines, but it's also the preferred food of cancer. So when you've got cancer, it starts eating up all your glutamine. It's like sugar. Cancer loves glucose and it loves glutamine in the same way. So you get a glutamine debt when you've got cancer. So there's some debate whether, you should give supplementation of glutamine to cancer patients because of the glutamine debt, or should you, on the other hand, starve patients of glutamine because then you're starving the cancer. So so some problems there. Arginine. Now arginine, Now, arginine, as we've seen, it's got substrates for urea production, yeah. So and ammonia is eliminated through urea. So as we've seen, arginine is very good to get rid of the ammonia. And it doesn't, I don't think it produces ammonia itself, although, byproduct of all amino acid metabolism is no, maybe not, nitrogen, anyway, on shaky ground there, I think. But anyway, so arginine will get rid of the ammonia. Also, glutamine is transformed into arginine. Yes, it's a precursor for arginine. So if you're taking glutamine, you're getting the arginine which gets rid of the ammonia. Okay, there's an intermediate step. It's transformed to citrulline first, and then to arginine. Now, some interesting things about that. It's transformed to citrulline, then arginine. Now, let me read you a thing. Oh, one thing I missed on taurine. I found it's very good for coronary heart disease, which I haven't put here. So, very good for your heart, taurine. So, So here's a thing. I found a paper written by about 5 different MDs and PhDs in Morris et al. In 2017, Acquired Amino Deficiencies, a Focus on Arginine and Glutamine. It's a review, so it quotes all the different studies. So here we go. Oral citrulline supplementation has been shown to increase plasma arginine levels, while glutamine depletion, the main precursor of citrulline, depletes plasma citrulline, thereby potentially modifying arginine bioavailability as well. So that's why, if you've got glutamine debt, if you've got, if you've got some stress or trauma or, from critical illness or whatever, it's also depleting your arginine. It's depleting your citrulline and your arginine as well, levels in healthy human volunteers, oral citrulline supplementation has been shown to increase plasma arginine levels. L-citrulline supplementation dose-dependently increases plasma arginine levels in healthy human volunteers more effectively than equivalent doses of arginine itself. In fact, data suggests that oral supplementation of citrulline may be more efficient than oral arginine supplementation during inflammatory conditions. So if you've got, this fights inflammation, arginine fights inflammation. If you've got an autoimmune disease and you've got arthritis, if you've got autoimmune arthritis or something like that, in fact, lots of, plenty of diseases, autoimmune, MS, for example. Citrulline. So you might want to supplement with citrulline rather than arginine, or maybe take them both. Take a bit of both. So what do I think? What is my conclusion? Well, I think we might, by taking these fairly large doses every day in our Healthiest Breakfast Ever, tablespoonful of glutamine, blah, 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 arginine, I think we might get, the body might get accustomed to, if you're taking glutamine every day, your body might get accustomed to it, and if you suddenly stop, might be a problem. Also, taking these large doses, lots of amino metabolism downstream from these things. Lots of these are precursors for lots of amino acids. So, is it upsetting the balance of those downstream aminos? Well, I've been taking glutamine, this large dose, a tablespoonful in my Healthiest Breakfast Ever for the past 6 months, and I feel great, okay? I can't see any particular problems. But I think it might be a good idea to do several things. I think it might be a good idea to taper off, and you don't want to suddenly stop if you're taking one of these things, taper off if you're going to stop, So, glutamine, taper off glutamine. I think we should cycle between them. So maybe for a week, take half a tablespoonful of glutamine, maybe half a teaspoonful of citrulline, which isn't up on the board, but citrulline, very expensive. Get L-citrulline, which is the pure stuff. Maybe half a tablespoonful of arginine mixed in, maybe half a tablespoonful of glycine, and only 3/4 of a teaspoonful of taurine. Don't go overboard with the taurine, So do that for a week, maybe. And then you could maybe go back to just glutamine with some glycine, half a tablespoonful of glutamine, with some taurine. And then the following week, maybe citrulline and some taurine. Maybe the following week, a tablespoonful of glycine with a teaspoonful of taurine. And if you've got any particular of these conditions, you might want to bear that in mind with your dosage. If you've got, for example, if you find that you've got the type of depression which is affected by taurine deficiency, you might want to make sure you get taurine every day. I think you should take taurine every day. The other thing about the urea cycle, it's mainly in the liver and kidneys. So that's why, if you've got liver and kidney disease, you don't want to be taking glutamine. Or if you've got a urea cycle disorder, remember 1 in 35,000 people have a urea cycle disorder. And you should know if you got one, you would have been diagnosed. Ray syndrome also, you would have been diagnosed. You would know if you got Ray syndrome. But all these aminos are fantastic for the liver and kidneys. So glutamine, crucial for liver cell proliferation. Glycine improves cell function in many cell types. It's a substrate of bile, which is, sort of part of the liver. Taurine, substrate of bile. And taurine, very good for the kidneys. What else have we got? Glycine, very good for the liver, improves function of the liver. So all these things are fantastic for the liver and kidneys. So I think we're on safe ground here, to take these large doses. Maybe for stop taking them altogether, maybe for a week or two. Taper off for, the way that's advised with herbs. If you're taking some kind of herb it's advised to stop taking it for a week or two before going back on it. So I think this is the same idea. Maybe taper off for a week or two, and then, you know, come back. So I think that's just about it, yeah? So make sure you look at my other videos for the Healthiest Breakfast Ever. I'll be doing one for ginger, one for carrots, one for black radish, one for honey. Yeah, make sure you see those. Make sure you watch the introduction and how to make it. And by the way, in the video I made for showing you how to make the juice, I used a centrifugal juicer, a very good centrifugal juicer, but much better if you can to use a triturating juicer. And there are two types. We'll flash that up. Yeah, really makes excellent juice. And I'll be doing a demonstration of juicing with the two kinds of juicer. I'll probably use just carrots with triturating juicer and centrifugal juicer, and you'll see, you know, how much better the triturating juicer is. That's if you can afford it. Very expensive, about 400 quid in the UK, which would probably be about $500, I think. So very expensive, but worthwhile if you can afford it. If you can't afford it, don't worry. You can get a centrifugal juicer, Chinese centrifugal juicer, for about $25, yeah? So, you know, that's going to work. Don't worry, it'll work. But, like, if you can, get the triturating juicer. Okay, so remember to subscribe to the channel. Look at my playlist. Loads of great stuff on there.